Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about a 1961 comedy. It's called 1, 2, 3. It is directed by Billy Wilder. It stars Jimmy Cagney. This is what you would call a farce. It's not only a farce, it's a frantic farce. And frantic with a capital F, maybe frantic isn't even a strong enough word to describe the fast-paced action, and in particular the fast-paced dialogue of 1, 2, 3. It is absolutely extraordinary, and it's the kind of movie. If you have a headache, you probably don't want to watch this movie. But if you're in a good mood and you're open to one of the screen's most amazing performances, which Jimmy Cagney gives in this film, uh, Billy Wilder saddles him with some just supersonic dialogue. There's a part where he's barking out orders of of clothing and shoes and all kinds of things that he's ordering for this young East German true believer communist who he's trying to turn into a capitalist. And it's so amazing, and it's done in one take. There's no cuts. And Michael Schlesinger, a historian who provided the commentary, said that I've never seen this movie with an audience, but he's seen it 1, 2, 3 with an audience a few times, and he says that the audiences generally clap at the end of Cagney's recitation because there's nothing else. I've never seen anything even close to it in any other movie. Now, Wilder did want Cary Grant to play this part. He had always wanted to work with Cary Grant, never did, but he always admired Grant's performance in His Girl Friday, where he too has to execute. Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell had to execute incredibly fast-paced dialogue. But this is, I think, His Girl Friday times two. it's that frantic, and Cagney is playing a Coca-Cola executive who's in charge of the West Berlin office. He's been a globe-trotting executive. He's been passed over. He's desirous of the head job in London, because then he'll be head of all of Europe. His wife, played by Arlene Francis, wants to go back to Atlanta, the home office, and have a normal life and stop all this globe-trotting because he has two young children. and But a monkey wrench comes into the plot, and that is that the CEO of Coca-Cola back in Atlanta is breaking up a romance of his 17-year-old daughter and a boy that he doesn't want her involved with. So he sends her on a trip around Europe. For some reason, he thinks she's safe to go to West Berlin. This is a time of great turmoil and crisis. And then the daughter stays with the chief executive at the chief executive's house. But she sneaks out of Jimmy Cagney's house and goes to East Berlin. This is before the Berlin Wall went up, and gets involved with this East German intellectual who's a true blue communist, and he's going to take her to Moscow. And so now Jimmy Cagney, what am I going to do now? My whole career is down the drain because of this. So he has to think fast, and nobody thinks faster than Jimmy Cagney's executive. And that's one monkey wrench, and then there's many others that come in his path, and he has to think fast. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. He has to come up with new ideas, and Wilder is skewering everything. He's skewering communism. He's skewering capitalism. He's skewering Nazis. He's comfortable now. Wilder, in real life, I believe a good part of his extended family perished in the Holocaust, and yet Wilder is very comfortable in this farce of making Nazi jokes, including he barks orders at his wife as well, and she responds by "Yes, mein Führer." So one might call this bad taste. It is probably bad taste even then. And stereotypical humor. So if you don't like stereotypes, this too is going to be, if you're offended by stereotypes, this but he's making fun of himself as well, and he making and of Jimmy Cagney. There's many references to Cagney movies. He's going when he's trying to turn Horst Buckles, who plays who plays this communist. He's making into a capitalist when he's not responding, and he's giving him a look back. He takes a grapefruit and is going to push him in his face, as Cagney did in Public Enemy with Mae Clark. And he also references Edward G. Robinson when another monkey wrench comes up that it seems there's no way out now. I can't save myself at all anymore. And he says, "Oh, is this the end of Little Rico?" Which is a famous line from an Edward G. Robinson gangster movie. And also Yankee Doodle Dandy, the Cuckoo Clock plays a big role in this movie with Uncle Sam coming out and Yankee Doodle Dandy. Wilder references the three commissars from the Notchka film that he wrote for Ernst Lubitsch, and the three commissars in this film. Everybody's corrupt. It's a dark view of life, and Wilder was often criticized for his cynicism, but in the fast-paced dialogue and just you wonder how Jimmy Cagney could have ever survived this film. I mean, and Cagney was, I think, 57 at the time, and they were filming it in Berlin, and Cagney was getting postcards from his friends back in upstate New York, according to Michael Schlesinger in his commentary, where they were out fishing, wish you were here, what are you doing in Berlin? In the middle of the filming, the Berlin Wall went up, and they were filming at the Brandenburg Gate and all through other parts of Berlin. So they had to move to Munich, and the great set designer Alex Troner had to recreate the Brandenburg Gate. And also there were airport scenes that were filmed at the actual airport in Berlin, and so he had to also recreate a giant set of airport. And you wonder, you have to wonder how Billy Wilder, because this film was not a success, and you have to wonder why Billy Wilder would have thought that the public was ready for a farce about the Cold War. A couple years later, Stanley Kubrick made Dr. Strangelove, which also satirizing the Cold War. And originally he was going to make it a farce. I think they had a pie fight. They actually filmed the pie fight. But then Kubrick realized that it was so absurd, just show it straight and it's going to be hilarious, which it turned out to be. But by the time the movie came out, it was the Berlin Wall was out. It was constructed. There was great. It was one of the high points of the Cold War trauma, and of course, people weren't in the mood to laugh at it and to see the humor in it, as Billy Wilder saw the humor in everything. I mean, that's just the way Billy Wilder was. And this was the movie right after The Apartment, which was probably Billy Wilder's most successful movie, all the Academy Awards. And when you look back on it today, it's just an absolutely magnificent classic movie. And it really is the high point. It's probably the end of his long run from Double Indemnity to The Apartment. There were some clunkers in there, but there were some really strong movies, including Sunset Boulevard. And then I think he sort of lost track, and the audiences were changing with a lot of the great Hollywood directors of the classic studio era. The 1960s were a real challenge to find an audience and to connect with them to what they would want to see in a movie. Wilder's next movie, Irma la Douce, turned out to be his highest grossing movie of all time, and mostly because the Shirley MacLaine, Jack Lemmon reunion, and the audience did have an appetite for that movie. It's a good movie. I always thought it was a little bit too long, and it was originally a musical comedy, and Wilder decided he was going to take all the songs out of it, but it sort of plays like a musical comedy without the songs. And then he had another disaster with Kiss Me Stupid, a movie that I really enjoy. It's just such a dark and statement on American life that you can kind of understand why the public didn't respond to it. And there were some other movies that he made after that. I'm particularly fond of Fedora and Avanti. But I think after The Apartment, I think you do see, even in 1, 2, 3, not that 1, 2, 3 is certainly a creative movie, but I think the creative juices were kind of starting to run dry, which is understandable. It's amazing to me how some of these Hollywood directors made so many such original, creative movies, one after another throughout this era. So but overall, you know, I just love this film, and you got to, like I say, you got to be in the mood for it. But you know, it's just an amazing performance from Jimmy Cagney. I always loved Cagney. I grew up watching Cagney in his 1930s movies, and the energy, the sheer energy of Cagney is so. If you're in the mood and you really get into this movie and you get on its wavelength, I think at the end, even though you're sitting home alone watching the movie, I think you're going to have an impulse to maybe give some applause to Cagney by the time the movie's done. Okay, that'll wrap it up. Thanks as always for everybody who watched this video. I really appreciate it. You guys take care. Catch you next time.